All right, let me do my check here. Get the microphone on. All right, I'm up there on the screen. All right, looks like we got everything set. This new microphone I got, if you touch the side of it, the body of it, it's got like a touch sensitive mute button. And if you try to adjust it by touching it, oftentimes you'll hit that mute button and it's on the back side and you don't see it. It's just got a little green light or red light, and you don't see it unless you look at it. Anyway, hope everybody's having a good week. Good Tuesday. I guess is tonight or last week. I guess maybe last week was the last day of the regular season for Moonshiners on TV. I don't get a chance to watch it anymore. I don't have that channel. I used to watch it. JB used to put it on there, but I ain't seen him posting it. Stephen beat you in here tonight. Clint, what about that? What's going on, everybody? Hope everybody's having a good night. Welcome to Distilling 101. Hopefully, you get some more new people in here. Wow, it's Patty in here early. Good to see you, brother. Yeah, hopefully we'll get some more beginners back that came back, joined us last week, and maybe get some more. Definitely love seeing the newcomers and love seeing my old brothers here sitting, have a little sippy sip a couple times a week. It's a good time. Well, while it's good and quiet in here, I'm going to have to try to get these links out. I like the new way I do it, though. It's working pretty well. I don't have to jump through the hoops like I was. So that's good. I just have to keep track of where the hell I'm at on the list. I guess I just have to go straight down the list. But I hate that because I can't get it to every group on time. And it won't let me arrange them here. Oh, well. I guess there's worse things. I just have to remember where we were and so that'll take me just a second. This is where Clint usually juggles and shows his magic tricks. I noticed there was a lot of discussion in the groups about methanol production. And there was a couple of different posts that talked about things we can do to minimize methanol production. And there were some good factual things on there, but there's also some things on there that, well, not so factual. So we'll go over some of that if y'all want to. It's not as big an issue. A lot of people have a big paranoia of it, understandably so, because it's toxic. If it's definitely not something you want to drink. But in hobby distilling, we generally produce very low amounts of it, and everybody that pitches off the first little bit takes care of that. Which one? Who? Daggone it! Where did this one go? I gotta pay attention here. Where I'm sending these. Yeah, okay, that's where we went. Okay. All right, so let me write these down. I'll come back and get them. And I should skip over some of these because I look at them and it's supposed to be about moonshine. I go some of these pages and it looks more like a cookbook or sharing food than anything. But hopefully they'll let me share to my whole list. That's been nice in the past. Let's see. Yeah, I got to keep track of where I'm at and write down where I stop. That way I know where to pick back up at 9, yeah. Well, damn, they didn't hardly let me share any this time. Holy moly. We limit how often you can post, comment, or do other things in a given amount of time in order to help protect the community from spam. You can try again later and learn more. If you think this doesn't go against our community page, let us know. Definitely going to have to let you know. All right, so that's where we ended. I'm going to have to talk to Facebook. Tomorrow's the day. Because that's just such crazy. Let me count how many I got to share to just say. $10. Yeah, I gotta be able to do more than that. That's ridiculous. So, all right. Dang on it. Make it hard on old boy. We're back. What's going on, Jason? That's all right, brother. Got to take care of business, man. Got to take care of family, take care of business first, always. Hobby comes last, always. Yeah, for some of us, some of us have our priorities right. Nah, I'm just kidding you, brother. Good to see you, man. There's JJ in the hizzle. What's going on, brother? What's going on, Stuart? Good to see you, man. I inherited the other day a 265,000 BTU propane burner. Got you a new banjo burner, big 10-inch. Those are awesome. Yes, sir. That's what I use when I do it outside. Yeah, they're good, but I tell you what, they'll go through the gas pretty quickly now. That with the BTUs comes that cylinder go a lot quicker than it used to. So be prepared. But it is better even heating and good hot. And if you can build up a little, uh, like a little wall around the base, you got to let some air in, of course. Not enough to where the wind will have effect on your flames. I noticed outside on windy, breezy days, it takes a lot longer to heat up and you waste a lot of propane. So, put in a box, not a cardboard box, but, rock or Duro rock or even drywall, anything that's non-flammable, around you, kind of builds you a little windbreak. That helps a lot. Not the paper side, but, Duro rock, I should say. Get you some Duro rock. If you got some left over that, or stack up some bricks. Concrete blocks work good. That's awesome. Yeah, man, those things burn well. Butter beans, hunk of hog's ass, and some good old cornbread. Man, I wish I was having that. We went to a Chinese buffet for a late lunch. We had to go get her car license is taken care of, and had to go out and bought me some potatoes. So the store here has potatoes on sale. 7 for 7, one of those 7 for 7 deals. And if you know you have this store in your neighborhood, you'll know. But Meyer, right now they got 4 ears of corn, sweet. I was talking about this, I guess, Saturday. Peaches and cream corn, 4 ears in a package for $1, 25 cents an ear. Not bad, not bad. I mean, I'm not doing that for the shine, but they've also got 5-pound bags of russet potatoes that look real good for $1. $1 for 5 pounds. So that's basically 20 cents a pound on the russet potatoes. So not just an ass, he's eating a hog's ass. But that's 20 cents a pound for these russet potatoes. So I got some vodka coming in. We're going to be doing some potato vodka. So that works well. Yeah, I don't know. The best part for me is bacon and then ham. I like the bacon the best, and pork belly, same. But ham, I guess, be second. Yep. I love me some pork too. What's going on, Cave Daddy? You don't like pork or ham? It's not for everybody. I know some people have allergies. I know some people getting bit by this Lone Star tick can't eat pork anymore, and some beef, and sometimes they get allergic to meat. Man, God, man, that's cruel, man. That's cruel. I can't imagine having that. But yeah, pork ain't for everybody. But I love me some bacon. I got all kinds of bacon. You wouldn't believe how many pounds of bacon in my freezer up here, and how many hams. I got a deal on the same store. Got a deal on hams. Big 10, 12-pound hams, $5 to $7 each. Yeah, boy. I load up on those. Then Ann makes this bean soup. It's like got, I don't know, 7 or 8 different beans in it, and black-eyed peas and beans. And it's like a 7-bean soup. And put that ham hock in there with a bunch of ham that's below the spiral. When the spiral stops the cut, we get all those chunks and kind of, dice them up a little bit, put them in there and slow cook it. Man, it's so good. Oh, damn. If that's true, I guess I could be a cannibal a little easier than I thought. I didn't know that, though. That's crazy. Uh-oh. JJ's going to fall asleep on us. What's going on, Brian? How's it going out there in California? Hell, it's 4 o'clock out there, isn't it? Or is it 3 hours or 4 hour difference? What time is it out there? Is it 4:14 or 5:14? I know, JJ. That's why I was saying, pork belly, bacon, but the ham is my second favorite. Yeah, I love me some bacon. I got freezer full. I probably have 30-pound of bacon. They also sell these little 5-ounce pork tenderloins with bacon wrapped around it. $1 each, man, and those things are so good. So, yeah, man, I got hams, I've got bacon, I've got little pork tenderloins. That's a lot of. Well, I mean, beef's so expensive right now. You got to eat, to have meat. You got to be going with a pork or eat some chicken again. I like chicken too, though. I like all meat. Yeah, you can't get enough bacon, man. Taters. I think it's about anywhere from 3 to 5 pounds, per gallon. I do close to 5. I'll probably do about a little over 4 maybe 4.5 pounds per gallon. So 1 5-pound bag will do a little over a gallon. And to you gelatinize it just like corn, but it doesn't take as long, and you don't have to get as high a temp. But the higher temp you get it, the faster it'll cook, and do so. And you can bake them to gelatinize them too. You can put them in the oven and pre-cook them in there before you put them in the water, and just put them in boiling water. Pre-cook them in the bake or in the oven if you want to, and get them ready. And then just mash them up and put them in the boiling water, and stir them up good and gelatinize them that way. But you'll still use, alpha amylase and high temp amylase on it to break those complex starches down, and your glucose. And you can also, add your malt as it cools down to, 150, 55. So, you can do it the same way, as you would any other starch, containing material. I know a lot of people weren't aware of that. They just use basically, I guess, potatoes and sugar and made their vodka that way, and they weren't aware that you had to actually do the conversion. So, but yeah, you gotta convert them on. That's awesome. That's awesome. You might have been bit. You might have been bitten by one of them Lone Star ticks. I know Donnie Benton got. I know a Donnie Batten and a Donnie Benton, but Donnie got bit by one, man. He had some surgeries hopefully help. I don't know. I hadn't talked to him, but hopefully he's able to eat it. That was this summer, this past fall, I guess. So hopefully he's able to eat it. But yeah, it's crazy. Uh-oh. Well, they awful damn good. Now, it's everybody's got their own, to each their own. There's certain things people eat that I wouldn't touch. Not a lot though. I'll eat about anything, but there's a few things I don't like. Making some absinthe, awesome. For the base alcohol. Well, that's a good question. I guess a lot of people may want to start with a neutral spirit, so they can control all the flavors that they put in it. If you can make something maybe with a floral, have refine it and really run the proof up to where it's really clean and neutral with maybe some floral notes. Maybe you can, like we talked about in the past, stressing fermentation. Maybe the temperature of the yeast press a little bit to create some more esters. So you get some interesting floral notes. And then distill that to a pretty high proof, and then proof it down, and then you'll get a lot more sweetness and floral notes to start with. I think that would be a good starting point. See, Clint, me, we're like two peas of pie. We have the same damn answer. Yeah, I think that would be the best, is to run your proof up a little bit, and maybe if you could during fermentation, instead of doing it at 70 or 80. We were talking earlier about some information going around about methanol production, and a lot of what was on there. Well, I saw one flyer and everything. It was pretty factual, but I saw another post that was mostly factual, but there was a few things on there that were probably not true. And it was talking about distillation temperatures and being able to distill off the methanol early and leave just the ethanol and other things, in the still. And because of azeotropes, you just can't do that unless you have some kind of fractional distillation column or something like that, which is pretty, none of us, it's a pretty expensive setup, and it's going to be difficult to do that on a pot still. So, but yeah, I'd say make a good vodka would be a good place to start. Oh, I'd still eat it. I'll pour some alcohol on mine, see, but I don't have any right now. What a worm's going to come out of it? It might. Hope not, but you never know. I know that I've seen worms come out of broccoli. I'll never eat raw broccoli again. I put some salt on some broccoli and or put it in some salt water and to cook it. And man, the next thing I know, I saw all kinds of worms crawling out of there. What's going on, Chris? How you doing, brother? So yeah, let me see if I can find the flyer, and we can talk a little bit about that. Man, this PC so slow. I've got to do some work on it. And my game did a big update today, so I haven't had a chance to play it. But yeah, I had bags of onions, $3, 3 pounds for $1. It's not bad eating. All right, let me remove this so we can look at this. I wish it's bigger. It's going to be hard for y'all to read, and it's hard for me to read. Can y'all read that okay? I'm going to have to split screen and open it in another side window so I can enlarge it. Well, maybe not. Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah, I can read a little better now. Good. Okay. What actually produces methanol? And can y'all see that okay? What's the best temp to add the yeast? It depends on the yeast. Different yeast, different temperatures. Generally, bread yeast or daily yeast, 90 degrees or so Fahrenheit. But for some of your wine yeasts and champagne yeast, they prefer a little cooler temperatures in the 70s. And like a lot of people use the Lalvin EC1118, and it's of course going to be a pretty 68 to 72. It prefers those temperatures. So, it's not going to kill it off if you add it at 75 or 80, but try to keep it in a place where it's still going to be cooling down to a lower temperature so you can ferment a little bit slower and it prefers that, but you don't have to. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, the higher temperature generally tends to increase ester production, and it also will increase your ethanol production as well, or methanol production as well. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Okay, good. Thanks for letting me know, man. Now everybody's not telling me these things. They're slow to answer. Appreciate you. It will be on at the bottom of here. You see, join us on DIY Shine and Steel Building, and that's a Facebook page. Join that, or the Moonshine Militia. Now, you can watch the podcast on Philbilly Moonshine, or of course Moonshine Militia on YouTube. But in our files, we'll have a lot of these charts. I have not added this chart. I think Tom mentioned he was going to add it to the militia page, so Tom will be adding that, and I'll be adding it to the DIY Shine and Steel Building page. And yeah, you'll be able to upload it there. If you want to get up with me on Facebook Messenger, send me a message and let me know that you want the. And I want to give credit. Curious Mind Lunchbox is who created this, I guess. So I definitely want to give them credit for it. I'm definitely not going to cut them out and give them creators' rights, because that's what it's all about, promoting people that putting out good products and stuff. So this is pretty interesting. So there's a lot of different yeast. I'm going to stick with your question until we get that done. A lot of different yeast. There's a lot of like beer yeast, and certain types of beer yeast will definitely require low entry. Trying to think of the type of beer it is. The Not a big beer maker, and what is it, JJ? The lagers. They generally have a low temperature yeast too, so you want to enter those. But it depends on the yeast that you're using, what temperature you enter it. Bread yeast and deity yeast, which is pretty commonly used, lageria, is a generally going to be 90 degrees or so. Will be fine. But some of your wine yeast will. A lot of times they'll let you know on the package if they don't know. Go to the website, check it, or ask on here. But bread yeast, deity yeast, Red Star Deity, distilled active dry yeast, most of that type, Fleischmann's, all that stuff is going to be 90. And it'll activate pretty well at that temperature. You can make a starter at about 90, 95 degrees, get some warm water. The way you do that is you run water over your finger. If it feels warm to the touch, it's warmer than 98 degrees. If it feels cold to the touch, it's going to be less than 98 degrees. But if you can't tell if it's hot or cold, that's when it's generally pretty close to 98 degrees. So just a little cooler than that. And I've developed it. I'm going to have to pull out a thermometer, before I do it. But yeah, if you can stick your finger in there and it's not hot, it's not cold, but about neutral, about the temperature of your body, then you'll know you're getting pretty close. So just a little bit cooler than that'll be fine for your deity and Fleischmann's and all that type of yeast. But wine yeast and a lot of people use whiskey yeast and proprietary yeast like this from Firm Solutions. A lot of people have been talking about this lately. This is a very, very good whiskey yeast. It's really good stuff. So FSI 927, and it's going to be in the high 80s, 90s for entry for that as well. But good question. Right. See, JJ's a beer maker. He's our resident beer maker. He's been making beer for a long time. I've never been I've made beer, but of course it was always whiskey beers to distill. But never was a big beer drinker. And when I did, I just bought bottles of beer. I never been real. Daddy, Red Star Distillers yeast. That's what you use. Yeah, 90-95 is fine on Daddy. Yeah. And it prefers, fermentation. You can add it at that temperature. It helps activate it. But as far as fermentation temperature, it will cool down and keep it in the mid 80s, and that'll be fine for a Daddy yeast. But you can add it, as your mash is cooling down, you can add it when it gets to about 90, 95 range. Excuse me, and you'll be fine. Or you can create your starter with about a 95 degree. And what starter is basically, you get you a jar, big quart jar. I don't know how much you're making. If you have a whole bunch, maybe you need a bigger half-gallon jar or something. Got a frog in my throat. But start at about 95, 90, 95, and you just and activate your yeast. So you put put about a third of a cup of sugar in there, and then stir it up, dissolve it, and then put your yeast in there and give it a good shake, and just take the lid off. Don't put the lid on because it's going to foam up. And put maybe half full. You don't want to fill it up, and it'll get foamy. And put it in a big bowl and put a towel over all of it. So kind of keep it in a dark place. If not, I just like keep something over top of it. But it's going to foam up, and keep it on it. About 20, 30 minutes, it should be foaming over. And just clean it all up, dump it in there, and that'll show you. That lets you know that your yeast is good and active and alive and vigorous. And if it doesn't do that, then you might need to add more or get some new yeast, because sometimes they don't do well. And also, if you keep it refrigerated, thaw it out first. Let it sit at room temperature for a half hour or so to kind of acclimate before you do that. That helps too. Yep, Quebec yeast is really good yeast, and that's a 80, 70, 80 degree yeast as well. All right, now let's talk about the methanol. um, there's some things about this that's not necessarily 100% true. Says methanol is not, well, it says primarily produced by yeast. That's a fact. It's not primarily produced by yeast, but having wild yeast in there can create more of it. But that doesn't mean is that's what's producing it. It just means it creates a stress and situation where its production is increased. So I'm glad I thought it said it didn't, but not primarily produced by yeast, and it is not. Um, it is formed by the breakdown of pectin. Now, there's pectin in. It's basically like a cell wall, and it's the glue that holds all the polysaccharides together. And so you have cellulose that's a cell wall, and then you have the pectin inside there, and then inside that is your endosperm that holds all the polysaccharides, right? So when this breaks down in fermentation, it produces methanol. The use of pectic enzymes, I noticed something where I saw that using pectic enzymes will help reduce the amount of it, and no, it actually increases it. And it basically produces a lot of these methanases. It's a group of methanol that's part of a pectin group, and it's increases the amount of it. Also, fibrous, anything that's woody or fibrous. Of course, pectin is a fiber, and that's the breakdown of that fiber is the same as breaking down of anything that's woody. And cellulose. Cellulose will generally break down and form ethanol, but some of it will produce and make methanol. But most of it's coming from your pectin. Also, if you're not really clean, if you've got a lot of bacteria in there, that can increase methanol production. I think it might cover that as well. Um, But yeast choice has a minimal impact on methanol levels, but it can impact it. But it's not what is creating it. But it can influence the creation of it, which is, wild yeast can definitely increase the methanol production. Um, some things that have lower pectin will generally have fewer heads. We know that when we make like a lot of sugar shine, just with plain sugar, there's not a lot of fiber or, cellulose or anything in that at all. So you really don't have a lot of methanol production in that. Okay, and this is one thing on this one. It shows that the other one kind of said wrong. It said if you got a lot of methanol production, you're distilling it wrong. You need to go slower and slower, and all that methanol will cook off earlier. Well, that comes from people that have some scientific knowledge, but no practical knowledge and and experience, right? So if you read the book and you just look at the book and it tells you what the boiling point of methanol is, 143. I think this might say it. No, I think it's like 143.1 or 5 or something like that, somewhere in that range. Methanol, if it's pure methanol, will certainly boil off at that. But the second you add what's called an azeotrope to that, it's things that bond with it. And as you add water to it, which is an azeotrope, as you add ethanol to it, which is an azeotrope, as you add ethyl acetates and aldehydes and everything else to this, all of them are, it starts changing your boiling points. And so the water boiling point will drop because we know we get water when we distill, and we're way below the boiling point of water. So why in the hell are we getting water in there? Can they explain that? No, of course they can't, because they don't know about azeotropes. So I wish it was that easy. On a fractional distillation column, you can do that. You can separate it all in the column. The column, the higher volatiles will go to the upper column, and the mid volatiles will be in the middle of the column, and the low volatiles will be in the bottom of the column, and they'll just come right out and separate nice and fine for you. But most of us don't have 30-foot ceilings and huge columns, fractional distillation columns to run up. So most of us that run on the pot still, which is probably about 99.9% of us, we cannot separate the alcohol that way because of the azeotropes. And what happens is like if you had pure ethanol, it'll boil at 173.1. So these people say, oh, just keep your temperature at about 150. None of your ethanol will boil off, but all of your methanol will boil off. Well, that's just silly. Just take your mash and put it in a pot. Just get you a little pot and put it on the stove and get your thermometer and take it up to about 150 degrees. There ain't shit coming off there. It won't even be steamy at that unless you have a real cold room. So, that's not true at all. Not true at all. You generally, I don't want to put two charts up here at once, but I'll show a chart in a minute that'll show you at about the percentage of alcohol, and that's methanol and ethanol and all the things included, what temperatures you can expect to start seeing things. So the other thing was wrong. This is right. You cannot separate it. Also, because it's an azeotrope and because it's got that hydroxy bond, that OH bond, all your methanol doesn't come off early. Throw those 4 shots off and that's got rid of your methanol and you don't have to worry about the rest of it. Well, you don't have to worry about the rest of it because the percentages are going to be so low. And unless you keep saving those heads and rerunning those heads and refining it and concentrating the methanol, you're really never going to get into concentrations. I mean, if you intentionally run the temperature just, high and create as much esters as you can get, you get the most fibrous pectin-y peaches and apples in the world that you can use. You use all the pectic enzymes that you can use on that. You throw in bacteria that's going to be bad. I mean, you can do everything to try to intentionally drive the methanol up, and you're still not really going to get concentrations high enough to kill you. But you still want to throw that first bit off because it does have higher concentrations of methanol. But you will find methanol throughout your whole run. And they found in some brandies that actually you'll find quite a bit in the tails as well. So you'll start out with a lot of methanol coming off at first, and then it'll dip, and then it'll go back up again, and kind of produce more. So in the hearts, you're probably going to see less. In the tails of some things, you can actually see a little bit more. Yeah. You get a little smoke on the water, like Scott said, it's the same thing as looking at a lake during a cool day, that warm water and that cool air, and you see a little fog mist rising up off of it. But at 150 degrees, there's absolutely nothing happening to your mash unless you have pure methanol. And then you got some, that you had to create to start there. What's going on, Ollie? Uh-oh, I pull out. That is Ollie. Okay. So that on the other thing that somebody put out was wrong, and I've seen a lot of people say that, if you distill at 150, you can get all that methanol off. They talk about that on moonshiners, and it's all about theater and stuff on there. It's not true. You don't leave the cap off and let all that methanol cook off and then put it on there and then run. You don't have to worry about pouring off the first bit. No, don't listen to that. That's all for show. Plus, you don't want to be rushed when you put that cap on. You got to paste it all up anyway because it starts getting hot. You want to go ahead and get that thing pasted in early the way they do it. If we don't have the tri-clamps, I'm using, but I used to have to paste in, and you don't want to wait around and paste in when that some bitch is 200 degrees when it's actually close to starting to produce. And it'll produce in around, it's hard for me to do this without showing this chart, so I'm going to have to show the damn chart. Wrong button. Let me put this chart up here, and then I can kind of go between the two. Just 1 second. Let me get to have them stored at different places because I downloaded that one today to share tonight because I wanted to kind of build this class around that, because it's very important, and a lot of people, that's one of their primary concerns when it comes to distillation, is methanol and hurting themselves. And I think that's a I think that's a pretty important thing to be concerned about, and I can definitely respect that. Now, if you look at this chart, you can see on the left side is temperatures. That's the boiling point of ethanol. That's actually just temperatures on the left. And on the very bottom is the proof of ethanol. So we're just talking about ethanol here, but it'll show how it's an azeotrope and how the boiling point can change based on the percent of alcohol. Of course, the more pure it is, the lower the boiling point, until it gets to the very purest. When it's 100% pure, it's 173.1. Over here to the far right where you see 100, you'll see, yeah. Well, I mean, it does deflamate a little bit, JJ. But anyway, all right. So here you have 173.1 when it's just pure ethanol, right? But as you move to the left a little bit, the boiling point rises all the way to when you've got like 0%, and that means it's all the ethanol's gone and it's just water. Then you're up here at about 210, 211, near the boiling point of water. So most of our mashes are going to be right up to the left or right of that 10. It depends on if we add tails, we're going to probably be, maybe 10 to 20, somewhere in that range. Then this is by volume. If you get about a 12, which is fairly common, you're going to be about 194, 195 before you see anything coming off. If you get to 20 and you got some tails in it and you're 20 or 30, yeah, in the mid 180s, early 190s there, you can kind of see on the chart. If you put some tails in there and run the proof, you mash up to, but 40, you really shouldn't run anything more than 40. And even there, it's 180, 83, 84, so, but you never should run any more than that. But most of us will be over here around the 10. So it's going to be around 193 to 196.7, somewhere in that range. You can start. Now I'm talking pot temps. Now this is the pot temp of the mash in the pot. Now you will in the very bottom, if you look down in it long enough, or you have a sight glass, on the very bottom next to the propane or the fire, whether it's electric heat or whatever, or next to the bottom where it's hottest, you'll see some bubbling there first. And that's because, of course, that's right next to where the flame is. It's going to be hotter there. The liquid's going to be much, much hotter there, unless you've got something activating and stirring it up and keeping it turning. Most people don't have that, but nice to have. But so that bottom little bit is going to start bubbling and producing first, because it'll turn, by the time that's 194, it still may be in the 180s above that, right? And it's not doing anything. So you're going to see a little bit of bubbling from the bottom. And that's just because that bottom temperature and that bottom 1 inch is going to be hotter than the rest of it unless it's been stirred. So as it warms up, then it'll start, boiling off. And that's going to be in your 190 to 197 range. And by the time you're done, you'll notice that the temperature throughout will increase as you keep going. And sometimes you'll have to increase the temps to keep it going. And that's because you're getting more and more water and less ethanol in your product. But it will get to the point when you get to like 4%, or 4 proof, it'll get to the point where equal parts of that and water will boil off until your steel's pretty much empty. So when you want to get to the sweet water, you'll never run it all the way out unless you run all the water and everything out. You don't want to do that to your steel. You don't want to heat it up with any liquid, not in the bottom. So when you get at about 4%, that's, it's pretty much time to stop. Your sweet water's, around 10 to 20. So anything below that, it's just, especially for people using gas, it's just not economically sound advice to run it that long, because you're going to be, using a lot of gas for a very low product. But definitely run those tails down. A lot of people stop at 80 or 90 proof. that's where you buying most of your jars, 80, 90 proof, right? You're throwing that much alcohol away. So never, ever do that again. Just save those tails, and you can put them, if you like running a thumper, you can put those tails in your thumper. Now don't fill your thumper up with tails. You're gonna overflow, but you can put a third, of your thumper, fill it full of tails, to about a third, and you'll get a lot better production. And if you have a drain on your thumper, when you get certain, midway through it, you can open that drain up, drain it, and check your proof of that, and then add some more. If you got an infusion uh, valve or something on the top, you can pour some more tails in there and drain it, and run some more tails and do that on your stripping runs. You don't want to do that on a finish run, but on stripping runs you can do that. But yeah. But I just wanted to show you this graph here because it does not all cook off at that temperature, and your methanol is going to come off all the way through that um, curve as well. And also the pot temp. Now this is pot temps. This is the actual temperature of the liquid. A lot of people have thermometers on their columns or on their arms where they're like a little elbow or something, or on their caps. They'll have a thermometer there that measures vapor temperature. Now that's always going to be a little bit cooler than the temperature of the actual mash in the barrel. So your liquid temperature is always going to be a little higher than your vapor temperature, because when it's starting to condense, as soon as it comes off, it's already starting to condense, and you're getting some passive reflux on that. But run to about 40. I think that's a pretty good, it's you can still get some more tails on it, but if you're running gas, really, it's hard to run it down to those sweet waters, because it just you're not getting enough alcohol off there to really make it worth it, because gas ain't cheap. But if you have electric, if you're using elements and stuff, I highly recommend running it down to 10 or 20, and I save some of those to the sweet waters that you get off at about 10, 20. Those are good to proof down, especially if you're putting it in a barrel, because a lot of the flavor that you get from that will help when you barrel age it. It'll give you some extra flavor and some extra proof to go along with it. So have you tried a pure maple syrup mash? That works real well. Yeah, they've been doing that for a long time. And you can do a lot of other things other than just maple syrup. You use a lot of other trees. You can do the same thing with some fruits like watermelon. You can kind of cook off some of that water and increase the flavor and sugar content that way. And yeah, absolutely. Well, it depends. If you have pure syrup, yeah, but just use your hydrometers. One of the best tools, and it's almost a must have. And you can get it for I buy like 3 of them for $12 on Amazon. So they're a little over $4 a piece, and it's an invaluable tool, man. It's you just got to have it, and you just drop it in there, and it'll measure, and it'll give you pretty much your gravity reading, and it's definitely the way to go. It's for what it costs, William. It's definitely something that you want to have, especially if you're doing syrups like that, and you can keep adding syrup and stirring it in. Check your gravity, not where you'd want it about a 108, right, with a syrup like that, and just keep adding a little syrup, stir it in, and once you get to 107.5 or 108, wherever you want to cap it off at, then you'll know you're ready to go. And it helps a lot. For $4, it's really, but buy a couple of them, because if you buy one, it'll break the day you get it. But if you buy two, that one will last a long time. That's the way it works for me. But I'll buy them 3 at a time, because that you just look at them hard and they'll break. So let's get back to our other chart here. All right. So we've been over methanol. Does not come off at one temperature. It does not. It will co-distill at a range of temperatures, and it'll come off throughout the run. Here they've got it discontinuing midway, but technically it'll continue all the way on out. You'll find trace amounts of methanol in your tails, but it does less and less, right? And you'll find less and less ethanol as well. And more and more water. So the water content goes up and the alcohol content goes down. And then once you get to right at the very end, it's all going to be pretty much water and ethanol and all the azeotrophs, but they all stay with about the same percentages until you just distill it dry. But unless you're running fractional distillation, you're not going to get it all off. Let me see. Early vapor, low temp, contains methanol, acetone, aldehydes, esters, and other light volatiles. Fact. Hearts ethanol is a predominant compound, but methanol is still present in small amounts. This is true, unless you get some smearing, and if you're running a thumper, they are prone to get some smearing. And then in the tails, you get fusel alcohols, long chain compounds, and heavier volatiles and oils. Basically, you're going to start running into some of your oils and fusel oils and yeah. So that's yeah, but you don't separate it all. You're not going to separate it by just changing the temperatures of your pot, and going low and slow does not have any impact at all on it. All right, let's go down to here. It shows, I guess, the bottom where it shows the apple. Use sugar or grain instead of high pectin fruits. If using fruit, use a pectic reducing enzyme. Now that's kind of one thing on this that's using pectinase does not reduce the actual amount of methanol. So that's the only thing on here that I would disagree with. Using pectic enzymes will actually increase it because you're breaking down those pectins, and it will increase it. So you're not throwing out right when you get rid of them and distill, and a lot of people will remove a lot of the larger parts in the middle of or the end of fermentation and do a secondary fermentation. So when you remove a lot of the skins and a lot of that stuff, you're taking out a lot of pectin sources. But if you use a lot of pectic enzymes, those get broken down and they're in there. So using more use of pectic enzymes will increase it, and you can Google that and check it. Proper fermentation, healthy ferments reduce stress and off flavors and keep clean stable. 100% fact. Definitely keep things cleaner the better. You don't have to. I've heard people say, well, I've ran it dirty my whole life. Ain't there? That's good, but it's better if you do. That's just the way it is. Proper distillation, make proper cuts, of course. Yep. Good practices, clean equipment, good ingredients, patience, fact, and temperatures and patience, not trying to increase that temperature and make it ferment faster. A lot of people will do that, and ferment at a lower temperature. Higher temperature fermentations will produce more methanol. Test if you want. I don't know. I've never seen anybody with the methanol testing kit. Bottom line, methanol comes from pectin breakdown primarily. Comes from the pectin breakdown. I'd say probably 85% of it. Some will come from wild yeast, some will come from bacteria, some will come from stresses, other sources that may not create it, but influence its creation. So, does not distill out at one temperature. Fact. Co-distills with ethanol across the range. Sure does. Good fermentation plus proper cuts equals safe, clean spirit. Fact. Don't believe the myths. Baker's yeast prevents methanol. That is false. It does not. Methanol comes out first, and then it's safe. No. Well, I say that's kind of wrong. Methanol, the majority of the methanol will come off early on. Not all, but a higher percentage of it with that first pitch. So after that, it is safe, but we're into the heads at this point, and it's just going to be something that's going to give you a lot of headache. So it is safe after that. Watching temperatures, just watch the temperature now. Methanol is the biggest danger in moonshine. That's very misleading. Knowledge, process, and respect are what keep you safe. I was going to mention something here. Let's see what. Oh yeah, about cuts. Now, a lot of people will save heads and fours. So the first thing that comes off, they'll save their heads and fours, and they'll save it with their tails, right? And they'll just separate the hearts out, and they'll save all the heads and tails in a separate bucket, or in the same bucket, just different apart from the hearts, right? So if you keep running these heads and four shots over and over and over again, and you keep making the same cuts, each time you make that cut, that methanol is going to be more concentrated, because you're basically concentrating methanol when you keep distilling methanol and making that cut each time. You're adding to it, when of course you have other mashes that you're adding, unless you're just doing all faints run. But each time you make that cut and you add it back, it's kind of concentrating it. So you're getting ethanol out, but you're concentrating methanol, right? So you're separating water, methanol, and ethanol, and there's all the others. But so especially with brandies, don't save a lot of those. I don't tend to save heads at all. I'll save the tails and rerun those, and constantly redo those, and you're never going to get enough methanol out of that to kill you. But if you continue to concentrate those heads in four shots, you can get to the point where you can get a high enough parts per million where it's going to be toxic. Now, whether it kills you or just starts to do some organ damage, or cause you to have some sight or hearing loss, that can happen. It happened a while back in India or Indonesia somewhere. There was a little village that they made their shine. They had their little moonshine, and the people that were making it were getting greedy, and they were trying to you know uh, redo the heads over and over, and the four shots over and over and over again. And I guess they just decided they were going to sell that cheap stuff to the poor in the village and give it away and sell it cheap, and those that drank it died. There was quite a few members of the village that died from that. So it's possible to do. Yeah, that's why I do GW. Yeah, I don't keep those four shots in heads now. Right at where the heads get to the hearts. And I know what you meant, bro. I know what you meant. But right where the heads start into the hearts, you can keep a little bit of that, because that right there will give you some sweetness, and some unique character. If you're going to age, if you're just going to sell it as a moonshine, you can't, because it's got that acetone flavor. It's headsy, doesn't taste good. We all know what it tastes like. If you taste it and be like, man, they need to learn how to do their cuts, right? But if you allow that to age and mature, I guess we should say mature, like wine, you've got it in your wines, and that's something that happens in wines called esterification. It's this where these esters combine with acids, these organic acids and the oils, and create some really interesting, unique flavors. And that's part of the maturation process, and that's actually a good thing. So having a little bit of those in there, for something that you plan on aging, 6 months, I can tell, like, Michael's honey sun. When I first got it, it had a touch of heads in it. But after it sat for a month and two, and I sip on it a little bit more and more, by the time I was, three-fourths the way through the jar, I was drinking other things, gave it months to mature, and it was much sweeter, and it didn't have that flavor anymore, and it has some unique sweetness to it. So, if you plan on aging, that's a good thing to to include into that distillate. But if you're just running, moonshine or white dog, it's not something that you want in there. You want just hearts, good clean hearts. So you'll make different cuts for different products and how you plan on aging and uh, and doing it. So yeah, but I just wanted to go over methanol, because I know a lot of people, it's a concern for a lot of people, as it should be. But most of the moonshine that we make and most of the distillates we make as hobbyists, as long as you don't keep those heads and keep rerunning them, and you do the pitch that first bit off, yes, there is some methanol going to retain throughout the run, but it's not going to be enough to hurt you. Guarantee you, it's not. So do your proper cuts. Cut, pour the 4 shots off. That first bit off that we always know. Never reuse that. You can use it for cleaners. You can use it to put on sores and clean, and antiseptic for cuts and scrapes. You can use it to clean your glasses. You can use it for window cleaner. You can use it to start fireplace wood. You can use it for your grill to start stuff. Your charcoal. There's lots of uses for it. Weed killers. There's lots. We probably dedicate a whole episode just sitting around thinking of things we can use it. Paint thinner, it's great for that. It's great for prepping metal if you weld. I mean, there's so many things that it's good for. Cleaning oils and stuff off. But yeah, he corrected it. Yeah, I don't. I never. A lot of people save the heads and tails together, and that's fine. They say it works fine, but it's just for me. I don't want to have to distill all that out again. I've gotten it out once. I don't want to fool with it again. Now, if I were doing it for money and I was needing that extra dime, I might get stupid greedy and do that. But for me, as a hobby, no, I mean, I keep it. I'll use it. I clean countertops. It's great for cleaning glass top stoves. I mean, it'll clean all that good, all that oil and grease off your fan vent hoods above your stove. Anything where grease splatters, it's good at cutting grease and all that. It's good at cleaning steels too. If you want to clean your steel out and that it works good for that. It's good for disinfectant. It's good for making hand sanitizer. I mean, there's lots of good shit you can use it for. Yep. Yep. Yeah, I keep the tails though. I'll rerun those because that does. There's a lot of alcohol in those tails, and eventually I'm gonna start running strictly electric, and I don't know. I may still use propane to boil water with, unless I can get that 9,000 watt element. I don't know. It's once I get that thing going, man, I'll be able to boil water in a heartbeat. JJ, that little edible got you, man. That little gummy. All right, brother. Sweet dreams, man. We'll see you Saturday. Have a good week, brother. Yeah, I got a little whistle in my throat too. I need that little frog. I need to kill. Damn frog been bothering me all morning. That'll take care of them frogs. Pretty tasty. Big gulps. Oh, hell, you ain't working. GW working. What time did you get off work Saturday? So I'm glad we got that chart. Yeah, and I didn't see this fact on here. Normally, fermented washes made from sugar or grain produce very low methanol levels, typically less than 50 parts per million. I would say absolutely with sugars. There are some grains though that will have some pectin in them. Not high amounts though. So it's really not something that we're going to be majorly concerned with, but definitely. You off tomorrow? Hell yeah, well, that's good. Oh, so Asphalt Jungle. That's your workplace, huh? Yeah, I like having those charts like that so we can kind of look at it and dispel some of the myths. Really, the only thing I saw on there that I had disagreement with was, and I'll Google it and see, but I'm pretty sure does adding pectic enzymes create more methanol. Yes, adipic enzymes, pectinase to fruit mash or lime juice typically increases the amount of methanol in the final product. These enzymes break down pectin, a structural component in fruit, which releases bound methanol, particularly through the action of the pectin methyl estratase, which is what I was talking about earlier. The pectin methyl estratase. I might have pronounced that wrong. I'm looking at it. I can't pronounce it. I've had too many shots tonight. But while it boosts methanol, levels are generally safe in standard winemaking, and enzymes are common for clarification. Exactly. And, you know, a lot of people don't realize it, but when we drink wine that are made with these fruits, we're getting all that methanol, right? So, yeah. I mean, how many people die from getting methanol poison from wine? Very few. Very, very few. It's in there. But distilling it does increase. Also, I'm glad you mentioned that, Made Man, and this chart didn't talk about it, but having a proper acid levels, having a proper pH level. Was that in there? I didn't see that in there. Was that? Let me look at this chart again. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because having, you know, it doesn't talk about that. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because another fact is, if you have pHs, the lower your pH, the less methanol will be produced. Now, it gets down to the point where it starts stressing yeast and can cause some off flavors. But like at 3, if you get to a pH of 3, you're not going to hardly have any, you know. But it's always good to keep your pH to 5.3 and instead of 7. Especially when you're converting, right, and fermenting. So try to keep your pHs in that 5. And if it starts going down a little bit, don't freak out. That's just the nature of fermentation. It'll become more acidic as time passes. That's just the creation of a lot of these organic acids from the fermentation process. Don't worry about it. That it's supposed to happen. So if you can keep your, you know, all the parameters pretty much in check and keep everything within the perfect levels, you won't have issues. You know, if you keep everything clean, you keep your temperatures right, you add the proper amounts, you make sure that your fruit has been cooked or, you know, boiled to a temperature that will kill any wild yeast or any bacteria on them, and you do all these different things, you can, you know, you can start checking off problem makers, you know, and things that causes issues. And if you cut some corners and get impatient and start cutting corners, then you will get some potential off flavors as a result of it. pH is 583. Perfect. That's perfect, brother. That's right where you want it. That'll be fine. I will say that lower temperatures will produce less methanol. If you run the higher temperatures, especially if you stress these, if you use a wine yeast or like an EC1118, this is champagne yeast at like 68 to 72. If you run that at 85, 90, you're going to get more ester production. But a lot of people do that intentionally to increase that ester production because that's what they want. They want to stress it. They want to get that extra ester production because they plan on aging it and using those esters to create good flavors over a year or two. Moonshiners don't do that. Moonshiners don't age their shit. Moonshiners sell that. So most moonshiners are like, no, you don't want to do that. But for commercial, you know, in the commercial business, you do, you know, especially if you're going to be aging it for a year or 3, you know, it's those esters can end up, you know, creating some very interesting, good flavors, you know. So yeah, 5.0 and 82 is perfectly fine. Does it? Damn. Well, maybe I won't say what I'm about to say. Oh, I missed you. I missed your comment. I was getting long-winded and lippy here, Made Man. Good evening. Did I mess up or not today? I have lactose in one of my corn and malted barley bills. Okay, I noticed that it had stalled at around 108.00, starting 1090. Okay. It was too thick, so I added some more water to repitch the yeast. No, it won't. It'll dilute it down a little bit, which will be okay. You definitely don't want to start with that. One thing curious, how many different grains did you have, and was this just a corn mash? Because a lot of times when you run into lacto infections, you really have to keep everything clean after that, right? You'll have to clean everything really well and sanitize it. Another good use of this methanol is it'll help kill that off. Also, temperature. Just boiling everything at 160 plus will kill off lacto. But keeping things clean, keeping it clean. Now, a lot of people say, oh, lacto, you definitely want that. It's good. It's good. It's good. It's not so good when you get it at the very beginning. If you get it towards the end of fermentation, it can be fine because, lactobacillus consumes not only alcohol, it consumes sugar. So it's going to take both, alcohol and sugar away from your fermentation, and it's definitely going to cut your production. It does when it comes in late. It does give a good mouthfeel, and so it's great for that. But the only thing I can think of is if you just don't care about the yeast that you've got in there and it'll just become a nutrient, you can heat everything back up to 160 and kill that lacto off and just skim it off the top, heat everything to 160, and and then just let it cool again. And you'll have to repitch your yeast, of course, but it may not kill all the lacto off, but it'll keep it at bay enough to where it won't be hitting you right at the very beginning. So if you can bring it up to 160, 165, that should be plenty, warm enough to kill all that off. It's not going to cook off your alcohol, I promise, unless you get to 190 some. But, in 165, 170, heat it up to that, let it sit at that for, 30 minutes or so. Going to kill all your yeast, but you'll just have that for a nutrient, right? But make sure it doesn't scorch. Keep everything. You can use a double boiler if you want to. If you have a bigger pot to put it in, you could, boil it and double boil it and do it that way if you're worried about scorching. But that's about the only thing you can do. A lot of times people just give up. Most time people will let it go and run its course, and it'll smell like puke and go through, the butyric acid stage and a lot of that. And sometimes it'll straighten up and end up okay, and oftentimes it won't. But there's but adding water and repitching yeast, it can help a little, but it's not gonna take away the problem. And lacto early on can be a problem. You can let it run its course and then, and then heat up and kill off anything that's left, and then repitch yeast and try. But it'll consume some sugars, so you may have to add some sugars to it. It may be worth salvaging. It may not. All right, we'll go over that. Awesome. That's good to hear. Let me get this off here. So, let me get this back up here so everybody can see comments again. Forgot about that. Yeah, propane. Yeah. You better watch GW. He's gonna start sending pictures. But yeah, with your lacto, it's gonna be tough. I'd try heating it up though and killing it all off. That would probably be the best bet. pH and temperature is fine. It's just sometimes if you don't cook all your grains, I found that like a lot of times people add a barley or some kind of malt or something, and they'll add it at lower temperatures, lower than the killing temperature of the lacto, and it'll have that lacto on it. And it's not your fault. It's nothing that you did. A lot of times it's just the lactobacillus bacteria is on there, and it can be a lot of different sources. A lot of times it's from an adjunct grain that goes in at 135, 45, and and lower temperature, not a temperature high enough to kill it, and it'll get introduced that way. Sometimes it can be probably even with your sugar. You never know where it's coming from. Could be from a wooden stirring spoon that you've used before, man, because you really have to clean things very well. Anything porous like wooden spoons, you of course want to stay away from for that reason. That's why it's good to have stainless utensils, and everything that you use is glass and stainless or plastic that you can sterilize real well. Star San, it's a acid-based sanitizer. It works pretty well. But yeah, as far as a good first beginner recipe would probably be a good thin mash, and start with a pound of cornmeal. You can just get the cornmeal from the store. It's going to be thin. It's going to be hard. What's going on, Richard? Good to see you, brother. So get you a pound of cornmeal and about a pound and a half of sugar for every gallon of water. I don't know how many. If you want to make 10 gallons, you'll start with 10 pounds of meal and 15 pounds of sugar, and heat the water up and dissolve your sugar in there and get it all stirred up good, and then pour that cornmeal in there. Make sure it's about 160 plus, so we kill any that was like lactobacillus and any other bacteria that are in there. And check your pH. You want your pH to be down a little bit. If you need to lower your pH, just add some citric acid. Keep that citric acid on hand. It's great for that. Or if you have some back set from a prior run, you can always use that to lower your pH. It's cheap. It's free, right? It's something that you've carried over from the last one. It'll add a little flavor and it'll lower your pH, and you can use that but most people just use citric acid. It's something that you need to keep on hand anyway, because it's going to clean your copper. So, but yeah, just, lower your pH a little bit and put your sugar in there and let it cool down to about 90, and get some Fleischmann's bread yeast and use that, and you'll have a low cost mash. It'll produce some decent flavor with that cornmeal in there. You'll get a decent flavor. It'll be better than a sugar shine, right? And it'll have some flavor, and that works pretty well. Or you could just use a sugar shine. If it's a new copper steel, you'll probably want to use just sugar, and make a sacrificial run. If this is a sacrificial run and it's something that you're not going to drink, it's a run that you test temperatures. You get familiar with your steel. You check for leaks. You clean any soldering fluxes, any manufacturing oils, anything like that on your copper or on your steel. If it's a sacrificial run, just do 2 pounds of sugar for every gallon of water, and add some nutrients in there. Pour in some dead yeast or something, boil some yeast up and throw that in there, or crush up some bran flakes. If you got some old raisin bran flakes, you can crumble those up. Doesn't matter if you got raisins in there or not. It'll help the flavor a little bit, but you're not going to be drinking it. But it'll help, get you through, and without it getting stuck. A lot of people say, "Well, you add nutrients but because the pH will crash, you'll get stuck." But also, something you want to get from the store is oyster shells. So you can get that from your feed supply store. Anytime you do these high sugar washes like this, thin mash, like I was talking about, having these oyster shells will keep your pH from crashing on you. That's the biggest issue with like tequilas, rums, any high sugar type runs that you do. You have to worry about pH crashes because those organic acids it goes quick and they get vigorous, and they really creates a lot. So having those oyster shells, you get your farmer feed supply store, like a 40-pound bags, $10-12. They last for a long time. So you'll just want to clean them up, boil them up. Boiling them works real well. What happens when you boil any bacteria, anything like that's on them? They say they're bacteria free, but I trust nothing, and this is something I'm going to be drinking. So, and I don't want lacto or other bacteria getting in there. So I'm boiling these right when I'm boiling the water that I'm going to add the sugar into, and I'm heating the water up. Those shells go right in there with it. That way, and when you reuse them, it also takes the bacteria from the last run. Anything that gets, because it's very porous, and a lot of those pores, you'll get, little bits of juices and pieces of grain and other things will get trapped in there, and they'll sit for a week, month, or how long it is before you use it again. And all of a sudden, you got a little bacteria build up. Just throw it in that boiling water, let it boil, and then fish them out with some tongs, and then you can add your sugar, dissolve it up, and then you can add your other ingredients and go that route. Just throw it in the bucket. I keep it wrapped up in some cheesecloth. You can use a old cotton sock, or I don't know, Clint, I think he uses old lady's underwear or his pantyhose, but yeah, you can use a lot of different things. But I wouldn't use anything hose, or it's got plastics and resins. But a good cotton sock or cheesecloth works real well. But throw those in there, and it'll help buffer. So your acid will drop. You want your pH to be around 5.3 starting, and that's probably one of the true old-fashioned corn liquor. But just standard corn liquor, I've got. If you're in the DIY shine and steel building, I've got some. Definitely, probably one of the best, easiest. Let me open it up. I'm gonna find the name for you. Let's see, and it's after 9, so I need to share those other links. It's a good time to do that as well. So let me open this up, and I can tell you what the name of that is. And let's see here. The name of that. Oh, I can also add this other file while I'm at it. Well, wait. Simple steps for beginners mashing corn using steep method. So that right there is about as simple and as basic as you can get. It's now it's using amylase. So the oldest of the old, and I'm gonna leave that there so I can do that. But let me see if I can share these links before I forget about it while it's early enough. Let me do that real quick, and then I'll be right back with y'all. It'll get you started on a basic, but it's once you have a hydrometer and you just go with weight, pounds of grain per gallon of water, and then of course you need to make sure your pH is right. I think that's one of the biggest problems with a lot of people have is that they don't check their pH when they're actually doing their conversion. They wait until the conversion is done, and when I adjust your pH when it's time to add yeast, and that's the wrong time to do it. You want to do it before you start doing any kind of conversion. Second you boil your water, in fact, you want to adjust your pH down after you pull after you pull out the oyster shells. Then you can put in some citric acid. That way you're not working against yourself. Bear with me just a second, though. And I will get the rest of these, or what I can get shared. If I don't get your group shared this week, holler at Facebook, because I'm definitely going to have to send them a message. I do this every week, so I'm not breaking any group standards or rules. And let's see, where was I? I forget where I was. Okay. If I post to your group twice, I'm sorry. It probably means I got one less group to share it to somebody else. So hard for me to keep track. I'm getting old. That's GW's favorite group. I just shared to that Bever Moonshine Madness. I think he's admin in there. He loves that Bever stuff. Hopefully they'll let me do 10 more. It should be 10 an hour, I guess. I don't know. I'm just going to tell them. Maybe if I verify or something, they'll let me do more. If I pay that $5.99 a month or whatever it is. Maybe it'll create a little palm. What do you think? That's the way the world works these days. I know. I'm just baiting. I'm just baiting it. I shouldn't say that. It's just baiting people to get into politics. Oh, hell. I didn't get my Shiner family. Damn it. Yeah, shoot. Maybe at 10, I'll remember. I'd like to get it to the Shiner family, though. I like that group. So we'll try again at 10. That's just further down the list. I wish I could get them all at once like I used to be able to get them all at once. And sometimes I'd have to do it twice, but I could get them all. But now it's a little bit. Oh, yeah, that's what I was doing. So, yeah, join DIY Shine and Steel Building and the militia. A little easier to join DIY Shine and Steel Building. The militia asks for reference. I don't know. You can tell them you saw me on here. It might get you in there. It might not. I don't know. They're getting pretty strict. I guess they're paranoid about people prying eyes getting in there. But I'd say if they went in there, they already there. But in DIY Shine and Steel Building, if you just go to where it says on the very top, it says discussion, featured members, media, files, and guides. Let's see if I can add that screenshot. I need to rename that thing first, see if it'll let me rename it before I upload it. Yes, it will. I want to name it Myths About Methanol because people change the damn name to these things and it's like crazy. Or let's just say truth about methanol. All right. Post. All right, so that chart will be in there now. I just put that chart in the DIY Shine and Steel Building page, so it will be in there now on the very top once I approve of it. Let's see. Let me refresh and see if I stuck it in there. There we go. It's in there now. Good deal. Oh, while I'm there, let me pull. But inside there, if you look, you'll see a thing that says PDF book 110 recipes, Stampede Steels PDF version 2.222. I don't know. There's quite a few recipes in there. But I will tell you, recipes, once you start using a hydrometer and using weights as your measurement, that's your recipe, right? How many percent grain do you want? That's figured on your calculator. Now you can, I guess, if you don't want to do the math, you can follow a recipe. But if you've got let's just say a 10-gallon mash, and you want to have about 2 pounds per gallon, right? So you'll have 20 pounds of grain. Okay. Or let's make it simpler. You've got a 5-gallon run and you've got 10 pounds of grain. So if I want an 80% corn, then that's going to be 8 pounds of corn, right? 10 pounds total, 8 pounds of corn is 80% of the 10. And I can do another pound of rye and another pound of barley, malted both. And that'll give me the 20% needed to do the conversions if I don't want to use the amylase. So I can use 8 pounds of corn, 1 pound of malted rye, and another pound or malted wheat, and another pound of malted barley. And that'll give me plenty. Diastatic if I want to do the conversion. And I've created a recipe. Now I will say, inside the DIY Shine and Steel Building, you'll find well, let's see. I think I can open that up in here. Let's see. And congratulations on your first steel. Let's see. It's called Mash Bills -2.0.02. And that basically will show you. Let me pull that up in here. Let me see where I've got that. I know I've got that file and want to put it in there. Let's see, files. No, it must be here. Now let me look to mash. No, come on now. It's got to be there. Mash bills. I will find it one way or the other. I do have a mash bill calculator in there. That's good to have. That's also something that'll come in very handy if you want to. That's on an Excel spreadsheet type, so you'll have to have Excel to look at it. But let me find that. Where did I store that on here? Might be on my old PC still. Let's see. Is it on in here? Let's go by name. Bear with me. I've got so many files. Here we go. Yeah, here it is. All right. And voila, nothing happened. Slides and PDFs. Here we go. All right. So I went full screen on me. All right. Here we go. This is one of the pages to it. Now, let me get back to comments and how these comments so you can see it. But you can see here, basically, it's talking about corn percentage, rye percentage, wheat percentage, barley percentage. You can also add oats and other grains, but those are the primary grains. And you can pretty much imitate whatever mash bill that the liquor you tend to like. You know, whether you like and it shows there's several different ones here, and this file's also in DIY Shine and Steel Building, but it shows all the different lot of different shelf liquors out there, top shelf liquors, some really premium liquors, and it'll show you the percentages of each. So we don't really need a recipe anymore, right? A lot of old family recipes were handed down to people that replicate, right? I was a replicator for many years. I got a mash bill from a Foxfire book. I ran the same cornmeal mash I was just talking about earlier for many years and made fine, I wouldn't say great moonshine, but it was perfectly drinkable. It was better than sugar shine, had a little corn flavor to it. I didn't do any converting, wasn't smooth, but as we get older, we learn. And once the internet became a thing, I was exposed to a lot more information than, what, my science books really didn't talk about conversions and stuff. I didn't take any distilling classes when I was in college or anything like that, like they offer now. But, so the best way to do, is to just make up your own, or look at one of these. So we do know that you have to have a certain diastatic power, right? If you want to do grain conversions without using the high temp amylase and the glucoamylase. So if you want to get all your converting enzymes from the grain itself, then you're going to have to start learning how to do diastatic powers and looking at the diastatic power. Most will just say 20%. That's a good rule of thumb. 20% 6-row will generally do the conversion on your corn. And so if you want to do 80% corn, for a 5-gallon mash, or a 10-gallon, if you're doing to do 20, we can just start doing our math. So if we're going to do a 5-gallon run, we're going to do 2 pounds of grain per gallon. So we know that we're going to need 8 pounds of corn and then 2 pounds of 6-row malted barley. That will give us enough diastatic to convert that corn and use natural enzymes, right? and we have to follow our cook times on this chart. And it all doesn't have to be this difficult. A lot of people, when they start seeing these charts and all this, in their minds, it just, it's like math used to be to a lot of people, and me included. You get that mental block, and it's like, oh my God, you're throwing math at me. My mind just shuts down, and it's like it just refuses to listen, and then all of a sudden it'll click, and it just makes sense. And you're like, oh, I see. But yeah, just at different temperatures, you want to add different adjunct grains, right? So barley malt right over here, you'll see it about midway. There's your barley malt, and about 155 degrees. That's the temperature that you'll add that barley malt. So that 2 pounds of barley will go in. You'll cook your corn, of course, at the 190 degrees plus for 90 minutes. The hotter you can get it, if you can boil it the whole time without scorching it, but that'd be awesome. It'd cut your time down to probably 60 minutes. But 190, or if you're steeping it, go 90 minutes to a couple of hours, and give it plenty of time, because you can gelatinize corn at 150, 55, 60 degrees, but it's going to take 10, 12 hours to do, right? It takes a long time. So the higher the temperature, the less time that is required, right? So, 190 degrees for 90 minutes to a couple of hours, steeping. And what we talk about, if we're doing 10 gallons of water, we're going to add 7. We're going to keep 3 gallons boiling, or right at boiling point, 200 plus degrees, right at the boiling point. And if it gets boiling and steam's coming off, keep a lid on it so you don't lose a lot of water. So every 15, 20, and do this in a cooler, something that's going to hold those temperatures. You want to hold these temperatures when you're steeping. I read earlier in a group, somebody was trying the steep method, and I guarantee it wasn't insulated, and the temperatures were getting down, and they just didn't wait long enough for it to fully gelatinize before they started doing other things and let the temperatures drop to where it won't. So once you let it gelatinize, or as time passes, so you mix all your corn into 7 gallons of water, right? So let's say we're doing the 10-gallon recipe with 20 pounds of grain, and we've got our 16 pounds of corn. We're going to dump 16 pounds of ground corn in there. Good fine crack, or not too fine, but a good crack. And put that in there, stir it up real good. Stir the shit out of it. Then put your cover on your cooler. And in about 15, 20 minutes, put your thermometer in there. Add a half a gallon or a gallon of water, of that boiling water, and keep that temperature of that steep up to about 190 plus for a couple of hours. And if you can't, then in a cooler it should hold temperatures pretty well. If you take one of those big fishing coolers or something, it depends on how much you're running. But anything insulated, I know people that use their barrels. I've got an old blue barrel that's got foam into a smaller barrel inside of that, and it's foamed around it, and it insulated real well, and that works. Or I got big fishing coolers I can use that, big long, 120 quart coolers work just fine. So whatever works for you, 120 quart cooler, what's that, 30 gallons? That's plenty big enough for most mashes, unless you got a whole bunch going. Then you can just do a couple, split it up between a couple of them. But keep adding that hot water to it. Keep the temperature up. Once you get it fully gelatinized, you're out of the water. Then let it work and let it slowly cool down. And you don't have to necessarily let it slowly cool down. Clint was mentioning using a chiller earlier. And once you get it gelatinized real well, you can put that high temp alpha in there at about 185 degrees. And you'll immediately stir it in real well. It doesn't take much, and it's miraculous how little it takes and how thin it starts to thin it out and hydrolyzing it. And it just starts liquefying. And it's amazing how little it takes to make it turn from gel to a liquid again. It's like magic. And so once it thins out good, you just let it cool. And when it gets to 155, that's when you'll add your barley malt. And you'll want to hold that temperature in that cooler. It'll keep that temp closely enough so you get it about a 157, and put your barley malt in there, stir it in real good, And then by the time it gets down to the 140s, it's probably been in there a half hour, 45 minutes, which is going to be good enough to do your conversions. Now, if you don't want to add the high temp amylase, you don't have to. If you have it, I don't see why not just go ahead and use it to start the process and debranching some of those. You don't have to. You can just do the barley malt and do these temperatures. You can do both, and that ensures a good conversion. And especially if your malt's getting a little date on it and a little less effective, a little oxidated, it's been sitting on a shelf for a couple of years, it's not going to be as good as it was when it was freshly malted. Also, the malting process. If you've got a cold malt and a cooled malt versus something that was heated up, it's gonna be less effective. If they used a little temperature in the drying process. Some of it a little bit gets denatured, especially your glucose and your lower beta glucanase. So, but yeah, add your barley at the 155 and let it sit in that cooler and cool off. And then by the time you get to your yeast pitch and temps, you should be good to go. If you want to throw in a little glucoamylase at this point, it's a great idea too. It'll definitely help break the rest of those limit dextrins up and give you more and more glucose to convert and increase your alcohol production. And it'll actually, while it's fermenting, it'll be still debranching. It'll still be working while you're fermenting. So that's awesome. But yeah. We need a big old gel picture on it. But that right there, if you can do that alone, I mean, just those simple steps, and at that point you can, you don't really need, since you've added the malted barley, you don't need any nutrients. Just make sure that you start with your yeast. Use a starter. That way, you've got a good viable yeast. That's a lot of times, that yeast doesn't live forever. Sometimes, it get denatures, and sometimes it's just, I don't know. But it's something you definitely want to do a starter. I like doing the starters. That way I know how, and if it doesn't foam up a lot, like I was talking about earlier, when you do that starter, add a little bit more, nothing wrong with that. Or try something different, add 2 different kinds. A lot of people don't like doing that. I don't mind it. Oranges and grapefruits. Well, they got sacks of oranges on sale. I don't know if that sale ends today. At the place I was getting all my potatoes and stuff and corn, they had oranges on sale, but it's just bags of oranges. I don't know. The oranges we get up here though, man, they're bitter. But that's, you could probably just use fresh squeezed orange juice, and it's going to be a lot cheaper than trying to buy oranges and grapefruits. Just get the 100% juice that doesn't have any, no juice. You want fresh, huh? But that's where, with apples, it takes 20 some apples to make a gallon of juice, man. And that's a lot of apples, 20 some pounds of apples, I should say, not 20 some pounds of apples to make a gallon of juice, man. That's a lot of cost. I can buy apple juice a lot cheaper that's 100% juice and than trying to squeeze all those out. I got a press. I can press them out. But give it a try, GW. Get some apples and oranges or oranges and grapefruits and try just a jar. You don't have to do a huge amount, They make these little, they cut it with water. Yeah, probably. Let me see on my chart here, see what it says about oranges. They had quite a bit of sugar in them. Oranges. Yeah, 9.2 grams. Not much. 9.3 in a grapefruit, or 6.2 in a grapefruit. 9.3, 9.2, and 6.2. But there's more sugar in a grapefruit than there is a strawberry. Most people argue up and down. No way. But there is. It's crazy. You like it? I would tell you, I will tell you one of my worst fermentations was leftover jams and jellies. So I would go with fresh strawberries and sugar. And I've made some great strawberry champagne and strawberry wine doing that. It was so good I couldn't distill it. But oh man, the girls loved it. I still use it to trade to get bottles. I'll take it a bottle by there and they'll save me cases of wine bottles, you know. I make a lot of wine now. But I ferment and I make a lot of jams and jellies. You know, we not only make brandies and wines, we like to make some jams and jellies too. And I had a bunch left over. You know, I've been slowing down, trying to, not eat so much breakfast with my bacon and biscuits and all that. So I haven't been eating as much jelly, and I didn't probably should have given a lot more away than I gave. I gave quite a bit away in Christmas to my family and stuff, but I should have given more away. But it's sitting there, and I mean, I'm talking, 10, 15 quarts of different types of jellies and jams, a lot, and some blueberry syrups and everything. So I got the wild hair. I'm just going to ferment these, right? So, I mean, why not? Because it's got lots of pectin, first of all. But so I got it all, and I stirred it up, and I added some hot water to it to kind of thin it out, kill anything, and degelled it, and put a little pectic enzyme in there to break down some of the pectin that you add. So you got lots of pectin, which is increasing the amounts of methanol for sure. So that's one big negative. But so I stirred it up and I threw the EC 1118. I'm pretty sure that's what I was using to it, champagne yeast. And we were going on a vacation, so I was going to be gone for a few days. And I figured, by the time I get back, it should be about worked off. It'd be all right. Left it in the barrel, blue, barrel. And when I got back, I was real anxious to see it, and check it out. I was thinking, get all giddy coming home, thinking, oh, I have all kinds of good sweet brandy to go, and maybe it's even some good wine. Maybe it's won't even need to make brandy. It might be good. I pulled that lid off and stuck my head in there, and I got hit in the face with spores. That thing had like 5 different colors. There was reds, greens, purples, orange. I mean, every color of the rainbow. I mean, I about gagged, and I did gag, but I about puked into the barrel. It was so bad, and the spores. I mean, you could see the mold and the mildews, and it was horrible. That was one of the few that I've done in the last 30 years I had to throw out. It was the worst, and I would never attempt that again. I don't know what went wrong. I'd say it had a lot to do with pectic and the pectic enzymes, a lot of that. Probably some bad bacteria got in there somehow as well. Um, but it was horrible. And I remember back probably, I don't know, it's probably been 5 years ago. Me and Shua used to moonshine Shua, for those that know him. We used to talk a little bit, and he was he's getting ready. He had a bunch of jams and jellies and stuff. I don't know if it was something he'd made or somebody had left over or was expiring at a store. It might have been expiring at a store or something like that. And he did a mash with it. And I kept asking him back then, how'd that turn out? How'd that turn out? And he never did answer me. Now I think I know why, because it probably got the same result out of his I got out of mine. But man, I tell you, that was probably the worst fermentation I've had, and probably since I've been doing it. I've never had one quite so bad. I mean, it was to the point where it got dumped. There wasn't no salvaging that. When you see something like that, and it's mold, and the spores were just filling the air, man. I was surprised I didn't get real sick from just breathing that in. But yeah, but it was horrible. So I went to the woods and got dumped. I guess maybe the critters appreciated it. I don't know. Probably not. Mine made some of the coons sick. I don't know. But yeah, it was an experiment I'll not repeat. But yeah, if you can get some fresh strawberries, I would definitely try, and try it. Even if they're free. But if you're paying for it, I just eat it as a jam. I wouldn't risk spend a lot of money on it. But strawberries are on sale. We got 3 for $5 at the same store right now, man. We've got a bunch of those. I can't eat a lot of it because I'm mildly allergic to them. But man, it makes some good wine and champagne. But it does take a lot of sugar because there's relatively very little amount of sugar in a strawberry. You'll be surprised. I thought they were a lot sweeter than that the first time I did them, and I was amazed how much sugar I had to get the gravity up. So I was like, dang, that's a lot, and there's just not that much sugar in them at all. But they do. It is a lot of good flavor. The champagne I made is kind of like Mike said with oranges. It turned out being very dry. And so it was a dry champagne, but it had a really, no sweet flavor at all, but had a good, strong strawberry flavor. The strawberry without the sugar dipped in it, but it had a good strawberry flavor. And I mentioned those girls how it was great for your diet because it was very low sugar content. Oh, they loved the thought of that. But it's very strawberry flavored, but very dry, and they love it. They eat that shit up. Did they? That's good, man, because mine was horrible. I don't know what happened while I was going on vacation. Maybe if I'd had time to pay attention to it. Yeah, yeah, it was horrible, man. I mean, there was lots of different colors in there, and it was definitely mold, and bad molds, and um, yeah, it gets hot because of all the sugar. But yeah, it's I don't know. If I see somebody do it and they get good success out of it, I might try it again, but there'll be nightmares until I do it good. I'll have some bad thoughts, man. I won't have a lot of faith in it. Oh man, it was the worst I'd ever done. It was the definitely easiest the worst, other than corn scorched. But I think I just soon drink scorched corn shine. Is I wouldn't even run that. I'll run some scorched corn shine and choke it down. But man, well, that's a choice. I generally with brandies, if you've got an infuser, that works really well. And if it's a really small, undersized thumper, that would be pretty much an infuser anyway. So if you've got a drain on it, and then you can drain and re-infuse, then you can infuse some tails and some flavor, at the same time in there, and get some increased production and carry over some flavors. If you wanted to add, some fresh jam to the infuser and let it try to pick up some of the flavor off those jams or something, it'd be something to try. But that's why with your thumper, you can put your little uh, ferrule on top and a little spool and a butterfly valve. And during the run, especially if you got my bypass on there, so you could open up my bypass and open up and then pour in whatever you want to pour in, and then close it, open up close the bypass, let it go back through your thumper again, and reinfuse, drain, infuse more, and keep doing that throughout your run, and you can carry over some good flavors that way. But if you're not using it for infusions, or not using it to increase your volume with some tails, I wouldn't put it in line at all. Most brandies just run straight pot still mode, and a lot of times I'd run it twice. To a lot of brandies, a lot of times will get a real heavy flavor. And if you want to lighten up the notes and get get different notes as you drink it, and get some of the lighter notes. Running it a couple of times can help clean it up a lot. So it's just an experiment, always an experiment. Try different ways, and it's dynamic. You can keep some off to one side, first run, one run, and then try to, that's why it's always good to have a smaller still than your main still. So like if you got a 20-gallon main still, having a little 5-gallon still is nice, so you can proof it down to 40 and rerun it, right? So out of that 20 gallons, you're only going to get a couple gallons of hearts and stuff to work with. You can proof that down, make 4 gallons out of it, right, at about 80 or 60, 70, and put it in that 5-gallon still and run it the second time. It's a lot more efficient, than to try to put it in that big, huge pot and run it again. So, it's nice to have a smaller still for that. Or you can just do 2 runs and do more. That's the best way. More is better, always. But yeah, I tend to run brandies without a thumper, but I used to use a thumper a lot, mostly with tails. And when I was running that same thin mash recipe, and but then didn't really do a lot of infusing and all that stuff until I started getting on the internet, when the internet started, and started reading on the internet and people doing infusions and stuff like that. And then, it kind of opened my eyes to, being able to add flavors, by doing it that way as well. And I'd never done that. So I started, adding cream corn and fresh corn to the thumper, and that helped a lot. It helped carry that corn flavor over and increase the corn flavor and made it better. But then, too, I started getting a little bit, started getting more into a lot of different, distillates than other in different recipes or different grain bills, and learning to use the hydrometer. It's something that we all have to learn. We ain't born with that knowledge, so that's why we're here, is to help pass on what we've learned, and that way you don't make some mistakes. Yeah, my cousin makes some good pepper jelly, man. And that's where I like them the best. I probably never will distill them again. I'll give them away. I won't try to hoard them. But I used to eat a lot of biscuits and jelly, and I've been trying to cut back and eat more bacon, though. Damn it! But when you get it, I've been getting bacon like $3. Hell, I got some, and it was name branded. It's going to expire like in a few weeks, and it's a freeze by date, and it says freeze by, and it's 2 weeks from now. So hell yeah, like $1.50 a pound, man. Oscar Mayer or Melrose, I can't remember which one it was. It's name brand. So yeah, shit, I got about 10 or 15 of them bad boys. Well, all they had, but I've probably got 30-pound easy of bacon and probably 50 pounds of ham in that freezer. I love bacon. I love it, man. I could eat it on everything. Hot peppers for sure. Have you ever grown any poblanos? That's a new pepper to me. I grew my guy I buy my plants from. Um, I guess he's from Mexico, or Mexican kid. But every year he works his ass off every year. But he sells plants for $1 each, $1, and he put them in these styrofoam cups. I mean, they'll be a good size, about to where they get root bound. But pepper, all different kinds of peppers and tomatoes, and such a good deal. All these other places charge them $5, $6, $7 a plant, $1. I want 20 of those, 20 of those. He's a good kid, man. He's in college, trying to do it right. So he didn't have any last year. He didn't do anything last year. I was disappointed. So I called him in spring. He's like, yeah, I'm going to do it again. I'll call you first. You're the first that's asked me. So I'll have to be getting up with him soon. But anyway, he turned me on to these poblano peppers. And I never had them before. And we like eating a lot of stuffed peppers, And man, the poblano, I'll never look at a bell pepper the same way, man. Those poblanos have so much more flavor and character. A little bit on the spicier side than a green bell pepper, uh, but much more flavorful. Man, they're awesome. And I and but my cousin makes some jalapeno pepper jelly. Man, that's so good. Live liver mush. Liver mush. Now, if it tastes like liver, I'm gonna have to. This is where that's one of those foods. Man, I there's not many. I think liver and gizzards. Not real fond of crayfish, but I'll eat them. You know, I'm not real big on sucking the heads out of it and all that. I'll eat the tails, but not real big on those. I like shrimp a lot better, but livers, I've always, had to draw the line somewhere, man. My mom and everybody grew up with eating those livers and beef livers and chicken livers, and of course, when I was growing up, you cleaned your damn plate up, and so I'd chipmunk them livers in my cheeks. They'd be all puffed up. Maybe be excused. And they had to be laughing on the inside, knowing I'm chipmunking all that in my cheeks. And then I'd go to the bathroom, spit it all out. But I cleaned my plate. If you got dessert, that's what you had to do. But I never really cared much for the liver. But I like liverwurst. That's crazy. But like a liverwurst sandwich, crazy enough, I those are pretty good. She does. That's awesome, Richard. I bet that's a good spice. Yeah, that sounds good. So I want to hear more about this liver mush. Make me Google it, didn't you? Liver mush. Liver mush from which is made from pork liver, other pork parts, cornmeal seasoned with spices, formed in a loaf, kind of like maybe a liverwurst kind of. Actually, if it had a lot of other stuff in there and it wasn't real livery tasting, I'd probably be all right with it. Because I did like that liverwurst, but it just didn't taste like a chicken liver, right? It didn't have that. But my big thing too was knowing, damn, they got hot dogs made with that and everything. But knowing what the livers do, it's just reintroducing that stuff into your body for the blood. I know we can get iron in other places. I like a lot of peas. But yeah, it doesn't sound too bad. But liverwurst, strangely enough, I kind of while I was working cable down there in Florida, we rewired Vero Beach in cable after a hurricane, and I was a lineman then, and me and my buddy, my partner, we'd go to uh, Miss Sandwich Pete's Meats, a sandwich shop, and man, he get them damn liverwurst, and he'd on and groan. I'm like, God damn, man, I got to try one of them. You fucking killing me over here. So I tried one. I'm like, man, that's not really bad for a liver. I really expected a lot more liver flavor, but it wasn't bad at all. It wasn't really didn't have that liver flavor at all. You can't. I'd probably like it then. My mom loved them. My mom loved chicken livers. She ordered them till KFC quit making them, and that broke her heart. She loved her livers up to her dying days, man. I'd go get them for her, and I guess maybe a year before she passed, KFC quit making them, and she had a friend that would bring her some over every once in a while when they'd make them, but she loved her chicken livers. I never cared for them. Yeah, bring it to a festival. I'll definitely love to try it because I love me some poblano peppers. Hell yeah. They make a really good stuffed pepper too. Ann makes this, I don't know, kind of sausage, and burger, and rice, and spice and stuff mixed, and stuff some peppers with it. Man, it's really good. Yeah, it's just it wasn't good. I didn't like it. Yeah. Now I'll eat a heart. Hearts are good. I don't mind hearts, and I mean I've seen people eat the squirrel brains, but I'm passing on those as well. I just know too much biology for that. I don't. There's diseases that carry over. I don't give a fuck how high temperature you cook it. I ain't. No, no. Yeah, this liverwurst had like a white ring around it of fat, some sort of fat, and just that with lemon mayo. It was damn good, man. And I had some cheese on it, white cheese. I don't know what kind. But yeah, it was good. Yeah, my aunt Faye made some squirrel gravy. She made the best squirrel gravy in Pike County, and I found out about it. I went and shot some squirrels and take it to her one time. She made her so happy. She was elderly, and she's my great aunt, and it tickled her to death. To be able to make me some squirrel gravy, and I choked. It wasn't bad. If I had to, like, I think we talked about this Saturday. If I in a survival situation, I'm eating the hell out of some squirrel. Right? It wasn't that bad, but I'd prefer a chicken or something else as opposed to it. But the gravy was good. It was just a little gamey on the gamey side. It's probably not the best. Yeah, chicken feet. I mean, that's probably just got the chicken flavor. I guess after you eat them, you got a little claw you can pick your teeth with too. Huh? I don't know what it's made. That's good liverwurst. Let's see here. Liverwurst is cooked spreadable sausage primarily made of pork or beef liver, fat pork or bacon fat, meat, pork, veal, or beef. Now, see, that's why. It's because it's got all kinds of different meats in it, not just all liver. That's why I never knew. Onion, salt, spices like marjoram, white pepper, allspice, thyme, often cured with sodium nitrate, sometimes smoked, known as Braunschweiger. Okay. Yeah, that's why I liked it. It wasn't just all liver. It's damn good. I liked it. See, I'll try anything, man. With my grandmother, shoot, growing up, it wasn't nothing for her to carry a pot of God knows what and walk up to you here, eat that. And when you did that, you opened up your damn mouth and you ate it. If you ever wanted to eat another thing she made, you didn't say no. And I learned fast, because there's a lot of things that if I'd known what was in them, I probably wouldn't have eaten it. But I ate it and I was like, damn, that's good. What is it? And then I'd be like, oh, you're kidding me. And oh, that's pretty good. Same thing with snails. Escargot. Everybody, I seen a bunch of people eating them snails, and we were in France, and I'm like, nope. Y'all can have all that. Oh my God! I want another order of these, and they were just going crazy. I'm like, oh God damn! I'm eating a damn snail, so I had to order it because everybody's going crazy over it. And did they get you, Jack GW? I'm gonna have to have another one for you, brother. My nose is getting red. I can see it. Yeah, me too. Me too, Richard. But damn, if I didn't tighten up my beard in the cap. Pull that some beard hair there. Anyway, hey, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, we were in France eating these damn snails, and they were all going crazy over it. So I ordered some, and I'm like, I looked at them, and it's all slimy looking. I'm like, man, this can't be good. And I stuck that fork in there, and holy shit, they were awesome, man. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And they were good. These were marinated like an Italian dressing and been marinated, and oh my, they were really, really good. So I mean, I'll try anything pretty much. But it's GW. You got to try 'em, bro. I grew up my granny. You tried whatever try anything, but you don't have to swallow it. You spit her out if you don't want to ever eat anything she made again. You choke it down and say, "Yeah, it's real good, man, Mom," and then get the hell out of there. That'll get you to stay out of the damn kitchen out there. All right, GW, you out of here, brother? Uh-oh, Ollie's out. All right, Ollie, thanks for stopping in, brother. We're on here every Tuesday and Saturday. For anybody in here that's, I think Ollie's been here before, but anybody that's new, every Tuesday and Saturday night around 8 Eastern time, same place, we'll be here. So come hang out with us, have a few sips, and bring us your success stories and what you got going on. Find some good deals. Got some ferments going. Let us know what you got going on. Oh yeah, they were so good, man. It was really good. I ended up probably getting another order too. I think because they were so damn good. God, I I definitely eat them again for sure. Man, all this food talk got me hungry. We had a late lunch. I guess that's why I wasn't sick when I got on the show tonight because I ate at 3 o'clock or 2:30. We went to the Chinese buffet and pigged out, and I got sick. Came home, took my tummy pill, and took a nap, and woke up at about 7 o'clock. I'm like, God damn it, seven shit. And then I didn't feel bad though. I felt good because I had plenty of time to get over it. I just have to try to eat early on these nights that I podcast. That way, I don't like coming on here sick and feeling bad. It's hard enough for me to think as it is. Let's see if I can share this last minute, do a few last minute shares. I want to get Shiner family on there because I like him. Nope, tag on it. They're not letting me. And that's been, well, maybe 20 minutes, 10 more minutes, maybe. Hell. Yeah, there's some good small groups that I like. It's, small groups of buddies, and there's pretty tight knit groups. Some of the smaller ones are some of the best ones, right? And some of the worst ones are some of the biggest. Like I was talking about earlier. Some of these groups, 60, 100,000 people in there, but they talk about everything but moonshine, Called a moonshine group, and half of it's politics, half of it's food recipes, half of it's just posts of whatever random stuff people find amusing on the internet. And it's like, on DIY shine and steel building, nothing is posted in there that's off topic. So if you post something, it's a meme or something funny or humorous, or it will get taken down. Don't get pissed off. Don't get upset. It's nothing personal, but we want to keep it on topic because the second you start letting a lot of off topic stuff get posted, the next thing you know, there's going to be did you get it? Awesome, brother. I'm glad to hear it, brother. Now it's time to break that bad boy in. But yeah, the second you start letting a lot of off topic stuff happen, next thing you know, you got a bunch of political posts. Everybody's arguing and they're threatening to kill each other and all that stupid shit you get. And it's just, I ain't gonna put up with all that. So I nip it in the bud. If it don't have something to do with the alcohol industry, drinking, even if it's, living off the grid type stuff, canning, anything like that's fine. But once it starts getting too off topic, canning fruits and vegetables, even if you wanted probably a food recipe or something, but start posting these little comical memes and stuff, and that's fine, to send to your buddies and each other and post on your page. But you know, don't put that on the group page in these moonshine groups. Try to stick to the topic. And again, if you have a you know pretty good recipe for a beer or wine or something like that, absolutely share anything you got that's on topic, or any industry stuff. You got a bean cutting back production at one, Claremont Distillery, whatever, let us know. That type stuff's fine. But posting your Aunt Esther's, meatloaf recipe, no. Save that for the food channels. It's getting about that time. A lot of people got to get off here. Tongue tacos. I need some cow tongue. Snout. Hell, I don't give a shit. I'll try any damn thing, but I'm not going to eat livers or brains and gizzards. Or I've eaten, sausage packed in intestines and all that, and that's gross as fuck, but it tastes damn good. So I just try not to think about it. I've never been big on crawfish. I've done it with different seasonings. I know Old Bay, and I know Mike and some of these others going to say, "Oh God, Old Bay's horrible. You need to do this." But I've tried it with different sauces and stuff, and just never really liked the crawfish all that well. I mean, it's okay. Again, as a survival thing, kind of like squirrel, I'd eat the hell out of it if I was hungry, right? But it's just, I'd rather have shrimp, and I can get shrimp just as cheaper, and I'm just not going to cook one when I get the other than I prefer. I mean, it wasn't bad. I mean, but just sucking the head in, getting all that. The tail wasn't as good as shrimp, so. Yeah, it was good to see you on here, brother. Yeah, it's getting about that time, Cave Daddy. Yeah, I know everybody. It's the middle of the week. That's why we don't want to run Tuesdays over too late. We know everybody's got to work tomorrow, and a lot of people on the East Coast, it's already 10. West Coasters like, where y'all going? Hell, it's just 7 o'clock, man. The party's just getting started. Yeah, it's bedtime for some of us. But I got Verdansk is calling. We up the game. They started a new season, and I got to do my expedition, and they got a new map out and a lot of new things added to the game. So I got to jump in there with a few of my game buddies and see what in the hell's going on in there and get ready for this expedition. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So a lot of entertainment. I enjoy that game. It's a lot of fun for now. I can see that it's, as long as they keep adding new content and keeping it entertaining, I'll play it. But yeah, I can see a time when it's not going to be. If they don't keep it up, then I'll get bored with it. I'll have to go back to Call of Duty. All right, y'all. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Good seeing some newcomers tonight. Got some new people in, some new questions, and got some new charts to talk about. Did cover some good material for people want to learn a little bit about methanol. If you tuned in late, maybe rewind it and catch the talk about methanol. There was a few other things I wanted to talk about. Methanol. Maybe we can bring that up this weekend and talk more about it, and maybe rehash it for some people that missed it, because it is a real important topic and something a lot of beginners and it's really something that inhibits a lot of beginners from making moonshine, because everybody's worried about making something that's going to kill them, make them sick, or make them go blind, and all these things that they get. Good seeing you, Curtis. Thanks, brother. But yeah, it's going to dispel a lot of these myths and make it where a lot of people are more comfortable making it and inform them. Everybody wants to have good Good seeing you, Jeff. Yeah. Everybody wants to know about these things, and it's something that's it inhibits a lot of people from making it. So once they learn and realize that it's something that's easily controlled and nothing really major to worry about, and you would have to go to great steps to really get enough parts per million to hurt you. It's going to hopefully help a lot of people. Break that barrier of, well, should I or shouldn't I? I don't want to go blind. I don't want to. I don't have enough confidence. I'm worried about making something that's going to make me sick, or, I'd hate for my buddies, me to, end up all be blind men and a bunch of blind men running around. So, but we can help dispel a lot of those myths and make your hobby safe. And with that, we're going to jump off here. Peace out. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We will see you cast Saturday. I'll be probably pretty inebriated. I'm going to Derby Day on Saturday, so I'll be drinking all afternoon out in the sun, betting on the ponies and having a big time. Anne's going to wear a big fancy flowered dress, and we're going to, in her funny looking hat, and we're going to go out and have us a good time and bet some ponies and drink beer all day, I guess. I ain't paying for mixed drinks out there. Damn, their prices are high. Shit, it's crazy. $5 for water. Beer's like $10 each. I'll probably sneak me a little moonshine. That's what I'm gonna do. All right, y'all. We will see you Saturday evening. Expect to hammer Santa. Till then, peace out. Love y'all. See you then.